half in the bag.
Doctor Doom is the top 5 greatest characters to ever come off of a comic book, panel. He's one of the greatest characters ever conceived in the 20th century. He's,
Well, that was disappointing.
Yeah, after 6 hours of cleaning up blood, all we wanted to do was see Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Yeah, who would have thought after 3 weeks the movie would still be selling out? They should have just called it Admission Impossible.
Well, it's a good thing they made a new Fantastic Four movie. Plenty of seats left for that.
Oh my God, so many seats. But I was still disappointed though.
Why? Because the movie was so terrible?
No, because I was hoping it was going to be a re-release of my favorite 1990s golf training video, Fantastic Four.
Mike, why would movie theaters in the year 2015 need to re-release a golf video from the 90s?
I don't know, Jay. You tell me. Director Josh Trank brings us a new sci-fi horror film called Fantastic Four. In this new reboot from Nightmare World Films, I mean Marvel, Miles Teller stars as Stretch Armstrong, a man made of rubber for no reason at all. And as a kid, he starts building a teleportation machine for no reason at all. Then as a slightly older kid, he builds a bigger teleportation machine, and all of his friends get turned into superheroes on a planet in another dimension by glowing green ooze. What's the secret of the ooze? Only Vanilla Ice knows, because he wrote the scripts. Jay, what did you think of Fantastic Flop?
Well, Mike, this Fantastic Four isn't quite so liked by critics.
Oh my God, I thought you were going to say fantastic.
Why would I say that?
I don't know, So, nobody likes this movie. It was floating around between a 7% and a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes for the past couple days.
Yes.
Critics aside, other critics aside, I'm asking you, Jay, what did you think of Fantastic Flop?
I feel weird trying to discuss it as a real movie because I felt like I watched an unfinished movie. It felt like there was giant chunks that were just torn out. It's like impossible to separate this from all the behind-the-scenes drama, at least for me. I don't know how much of that you were aware of.
Who said the fantastic lie?
I was aware of no behind-the-scenes drama, and so I didn't quite get the feeling that you had where it was missing chunks. I felt like it was a cohesive movie, but it was just, it was fairly straightforward.
Kind of, until the second half when things start happening and you're like, why? Dr. Doom wants to destroy the world for some reason. He has some sort of vague superpowers that we don't understand. He builds a device to shoot a black hole into the earth out of rocks somehow.
See that? Okay, all of that ending was a little confusing, but everything was set up and everything made sense to me because the Victor Von Doom character, he's a bit of a misanthrope in the beginning. He's like, humanity sucks and blah, blah, blah. And then he loves Sue Storm. So there's a little love triangle thing going on with him and
Stretch Armstrong.
Richard Reed.
Richard Reed. Yeah.
Richard Reed. Is that his name?
His name's Reed Richards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it Richard Reed, a movie reviewer?
I believe so, yeah. Richard
Gere? Richard Reed.
There's a Richard Roper.
Richard Roper and Reed.
Rex Reed. Rex Reed.
They go to the alternate dimension. They get a little bit of the ooze on them. Actually, it's more complicated than that. Like rocks fly into Rockman's cabin.
They all have something happen to them that somehow relates to what their eventual superpower is.
Weird things from another dimension give them superpowers.
We don't know what the ooze is or how it gives them powers, but it does.
It's a weird dimension. That's all you need to know.
But it's not even the ooze, because then when they travel back to our dimension, Sue Storm stayed behind, and she gets hit by some sort of energy thing, and she can turn invisible.
I'm assuming that came through the teleportation from the other world. Whatever. But Victor von Frankenstein fell into the ooze and was consumed by it. He got it like 100 times worse than everybody else.
Yes.
Plus they left him behind on a planet for a year. And so that was brewing. And his motivation, I'm angry, and plus he's been altered by this stuff, he's angry. I'm fine.
Yeah.
The problem is that you cannot make a movie from the Fantastic Four.
I want you to meet my daughter, Sue.
You want to be famous?
I just want my work to make a difference. Johnny, read.
This guy doesn't take orders well.
Yeah, especially from people who say I don't take orders well. Don't let any of these lab coats give you any crap, all right? Well, if I do, I know who to call. The Muscle.
I gotta say, it's fun having you here.
Really?
No.
This one is closer to Fantastic Four of what a Fantastic Four movie should be. Because Fantastic Four, it's not like we're a superhero team like the Avengers going out to save the world. Yeah. We're a bunch of scientists and weird things have happened to us.
Right.
A similar concept, but it's like the Jessica Alba, Chris Evans one. It's like, okay, we're gonna quickly go through the science stuff in the first 5 minutes, and then the rest of the movie, we've got to save people on this bridge from Dr. Doom. We're a superhero team, and they really aren't.
No. I think that's sort of, like, I don't know much about the Fantastic Four comic, but every adaptation, it always feels like there's a disconnect between those two elements, the science elements and the superhuman power elements. And it's more so obvious in this version because the scientist elements are treated so seriously that it's very bizarre when they start like stretching limbs and we have a giant rock monster that feels completely out of place. There's what I'm assuming was an insert shot early on when they have a boardroom meeting and they're flipping through papers and they go, "I see you've brought on Victor Von Doom." Because from what I understand, Josh Trank's original version, that wasn't his name. It was like Victor something else because Von Doom sounds silly in the tone that he was going for with this. So it's like, that's silly. So yeah, there's like a mishmash of tones that don't work at all. In addition to, and you're right about the character motivations and stuff being very clear and straightforward, but like the pacing of the movie is really bizarre and off. Like we completely skip over, and these are things I don't care about, but I think someone who wants to see a comic book movie would, is like, they get back from their mission. Now they all have these weird superpowers. Hard cut to a year later, so we don't see them like learning how to use their powers. We barely understand what their powers are, and it's just a year later, and they're all doing these different things.
Yeah, and
then Doom shows up in the last 10 minutes of the movie and says, "I'm gonna destroy the world now, I guess."
Yeah, this was front-loaded with backstory. Mm-hmm. Pardon the contradiction.
Which I actually liked a lot of that.
There is risk. There is sacrifice. And there are consequences.
The movie starts off okay. There's a nice indicator of what the reshoot stuff is in the form of Kate Mara's horrible wig. You should not be thinking of Samurai Cop when you watch a $200 million movie, but this is what we got.
Really, for all that money, you can't get a natural wig?
Well, they ran out of money by that point.
They ran down to the party supply store. We need a blonde wig. We have a Marilyn Monroe one.
Good enough. We'll straighten it.
It's just terrible.
It's bad, but it's helpful because I was aware of a lot of the back and forth struggles between Josh Trank and the studio. So seeing those, it's like, okay, reshoot, you know. And especially most of the second half appears to be reshoots. And there's a couple little moments where you could tell it wasn't because it was a real hair that I thought were actually kind of neat. And I wish I could see what the original version of the movie was, because I see elements in here that might not work as like a traditional comic book movie, but I thought the science stuff was interesting. There's some almost like a horror movie at parts, and I thought that stuff was interesting. Dr. Doom shows up and he's going down a hallway and he's using like scanner power to make people's heads explode. I was like, that's creepy and weird and interesting.
Dr. Doom was awesome in this.
In some of it, until he just decided to shoot a blue laser for no reason, and then they stopped him somehow.
Well, I don't know what reshoots are, what the original Josh Trank ideas were, script was. But
from what I understand, his original idea was to do sort of a science fiction movie with like Cronenberg-type body horror elements.
Something that is different from your average superhero film, something that they don't really expect.
100% beef burger, melted cheddar, with crispy hash browns and an egg your way.
Now that's a
You want that to go again, sweetie?
The Thing Burger.
I had a feeling that Doom comes back And then he gets in the transporter and he leaves. And I thought it was going to end there. And I'm like, that's great. That's a great ending. I'm happy with it. A little bit of a fight scene in the laboratory.
Yeah.
And he's gone. And then, whoa, not big enough though.
I'm assuming his original version was a lot more smaller scale. I don't know what it was, but you can see hints of it, especially in the first half. A lot of that seems like what was his original intentions.
It reminded me a lot of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
Well, that's going back to Cronenberg. Yeah.
Right. It's just like those teleportation machines and then
and them deciding to take the leap and jump into the teleportation device themselves after a night of drinking. That's just like The Fly.
This movie, like I said, this movie is front-loaded with an hour of science stuff. And it's not even that intricate. But I think it's more than general audiences and people looking to see a comic book movie are going to want to deal with.
Yeah.
They want to go, we have got a machine that'll do this. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
They don't want
get to the superhero stuff.
Get to them
the
fighting.
action.
Get to Dr. Doom in the middle of the street going, I'm going to destroy New York. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Although they fucked that up in the Jessica Alba Fantastic Four too, didn't they?
It doesn't work either way.
I think so. They keep trying to redo these Fantastic Four movies, and every time they just get worse and worse. The best one is the Roger Corman one that wasn't even intended to be released.
You may call me Dr. Doom.
Well, they get technically better.
Technically better, yes, but they get less entertaining.
The Thing costume did a dip. It was great in the Roger Corman version.
It's clobbering time for real.
Then it looked terrible, Michael Chiklis in a rubber suit.
Yeah.
Even though the first one was a rubber suit, but it didn't look like a rubber suit.
The rocks don't wrinkle when he moves like the
Yeah.
Michael Chiklis one.
Yeah, and then this one, of course, is an appropriate use for a CGI character.
Yeah. And he looked good.
Don't put a guy in a rubber suit.
Yeah.
Use a CGI character for that. Great. I think the problem here is people want to see a happy, witty, fun action movie with the Fantastic Four, and for some fucking reason they went brooding and dark. But it would have worked ultra brooding and dark as its own thing.
Yes.
But the studio panicked and said, don't make it like the Avengers. That end scene, oh my God.
Oh, man.
When they're like, the government's like, we want you to work for us still. And they're like, nope, here's our deal. We want our own laboratory and we want to be best friends. And then they're all standing, like looking over their lab, and they're like, ha ha ha, witty banter.
Yeah.
What should we call ourselves? The Fantastic Four? I could see Josh Trank like tearing his hair out. Like,
I gotta say, that's what I was thinking through most of this movie. Once I actually kind of saw what he was attempting to go for, that completely got fucked over. There's a lot of like stories about him on the set, and he's like a horrible asshole, and he'd show up drunk, and he trashed his living quarters that he was in while they were making the movie, like completely destroyed it. Like, he sounds like a horrible asshole. But watching this movie made me feel really bad for him.
wow.
You're watching a coming-of-age story.
Well, you know what? It's not his fault. It's the studio's fault for hiring him.
Yes.
Because
if that was the script that they okayed.
The guy, he made internet video.
Is that how he got Chronicle?
Yes.
Oh.
It's like a footage of a drunken party that's on someone's video camera, and someone starts taking out lightsabers and fighting.
And that's how he got a deal to make a feature film?
I think so. And then he made Chronicle, and I don't know what their reasoning for hiring him for this was, other than Chronicle had teenagers or young people in it and has science fiction-y element.
It kind of becomes a superhero type movie towards the end, so I think that's because they sort of get powers.
That's that movie. It has superheroes in it.
Did you just completely forget what Chronicle was even about?
I did.
It's a good movie.
I remember it being blue and having people in it.
Yeah, you hire him to make this weird science fiction horror film, you let him make the movie, and then you fuck him over in editing and reshoot half the movie with Kate Mara in a bad wig, and then dump it in theaters.
But then what's your alternative? To make a movie that looks like the Roger Corman movie, where they're wearing the goofy costumes with the 4 on it, and they're running around trying to save the day, and that's what the Jessica Alba one was.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like-
the Jessica Alba one is kind of similar to the Roger Corman one, with just a higher budget, as far as how corny it is. But the Roger Corman one has that low budget charm that makes it kind of fun. Yeah.
It's that blur, that line of the comic book movies where, you can't go fully realistic sometimes, but then you can't go corny.
Yeah.
And when you ride the line in the middle, that's when you end up with muck.
Well, I think, yeah, the problem with the Fantastic Four is all their powers are inherently silly. You have a man who stretches, like, you should not try and make a dark, gritty movie like that. It appears what Josh Trank was trying to do was something that kind of skirted around those elements or treated them like freaks or whatever he was trying to do. And then, yeah, and then you add in all the superhero stuff, and you get like whiplash.
Yeah.
What is this movie going for? You get like whiplash. You get like whiplash. Oh, I unintentionally made a whiplash reference.
Yeah, are you gonna get around to that yet?
I did not do that on purpose. I mean, that was my goal, and I landed it.
The whole time I kept picturing Miles Teller, like playing these complicated jazz drums, going. And he's playing like another drum set over here.
J.K. Simmons turns up in a Dr. Doom costume, and they have like a drum off.
No, J.K. Simmons goes, Parker! What wrong movie? Everyone's in a fucking superhero movie!
You have no idea what they are planning to do to you. Listen to me.
That's what got me here in the first place.
I just want to fix my friends.
You can't fix this. Nobody can.
You don't know anything about what's coming.
What is coming?
Doom.
The end of your world is the beginning of mine.
Well, let's talk about Miles Teller. People say they want to punch him in the face.
Yes, everyone says he has a punchable face.
I feel like the best actors, there are certain roles that they were born to play, and Miles was born to play this role. Like, he is so good.
Oh, God. This is so boring. This character sucks.
I liked Miles Teller in Whiplash, which we never talked about Whiplash on Half in the Bag because we hadn't seen it until recently. And it's like the best movie of last year. It's fucking great.
It's better than Birdman, I'll say that.
It's better than Birdman, it's better than Nightcrawler, it's probably the best movie of last year.
And I like him. I think, he's not like, I don't know, he's not like super handsome.
I like that he doesn't look, he's not like a Chris Evans or like the type of person you would put in one of these movies.
Yeah, and they don't have him be the classic Reed Richards with the gray and like how he looks in the comic book. They do a little different twist on it. Although in the poster, they try to make him look more attractive in the poster.
They always do.
I've noticed, like more so, like I think they stretched his face out, no pun intended, and like added thicker eyebrows. And I'm looking at it.
They got rid of his scars.
They got rid of scars. Yeah. They tried to make him look like a attractive guy in the poster, so they could get the girl demo in there. And he doesn't look like that in real life.
No.
There's some noticeable differences between the heavily photoshopped. And then that other actor, God, he looked really bad. The guy who plays the Thing, he really needs some lotion. Like he looks like he's made of rocks.
Oh, I think that was visual effects.
What?
So Kate Mara is the sister of Rooney Mara.
Oh, really?
And I'm wondering if they had a competition to, because I saw the trailer for that Peter Pan movie with Rooney Mara in a big comical wig. And I wonder if they had a competition to see who could pick the most embarrassing project to work on.
I play Sue Storm. She's pretty shy, very smart, and very passionate about science, and she becomes the Invisible Woman.
I agree with you. The Dr. Doom coming back was like genuinely frightening. Like he's pretty scary. He's super powerful. Exploding people's heads was awesome.
In as graphic as you can in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, and like when the Thing is like right away when they have their powers and Miles Teller is strapped to the table and it's like weird, and then he's in the air shaft and then the Thing's like, help me.
He's like trying to pull himself out of rocks. And
yeah, he's like still kind of forming, and it's really kind of grotesque and scary. And yeah, little kids will not enjoy this film whatsoever. It's boring for adults.
Yeah.
But for me, I in a way, I kind of liked it in the way that you did, where it's like I like a lot of the elements. I liked the tone, the strange darkness to it. It worked as a movie, just not a Fantastic Four movie or not a superhero movie.
Well, I wouldn't even... No, because then you get to the second half where you get to all the goofier stuff.
It's not the second half, as more so as the last tenth. You know what I mean? It's hard to figure out what to do with them.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do with the Fantastic Four? You have to make a movie about them exploring science and physics and weird astral phenomenon.
No, that's not what you should do if you're trying to make a conventional comic book movie, though. You have them get shot into space in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then they come back and they have superpowers and they save people.
All the stuff, like him building the machine, them sending the monkey into the other dimension, and it was all very, that was one thing I was thinking too, is like, are they all gonna get in the machine and go? Isn't that the job for like Navy pilots, you know, like astronauts?
Well, that was a confusing point of the movie.
Well, at one point they did say that. NASA's gonna take over from here,
I know, but like the fact that they were so upset by that, and then they get drunk and say, fuck it, we're just gonna do it. It's like, at that point, it's like they're driven by ego, which makes you not sympathize with them at all.
Who wouldn't want to visit another dimension that looks like a nightmare planet?
Dr. Doom liked that nightmare planet for some reason. I want to go back to my beautiful new home world.
He got corrupted by goo, and we all know when you have a mysterious goo in a movie that does terrible, evil things, that it's a surefire hit at the box office.
I was actually thinking of Prometheus when they get to the other world, because they start acting like dummies for no reason. And it's like, if you're on some mysterious other dimension and you see a giant pile of green electric goo, don't immediately stick your hand in it. You have no idea what the fuck this is. It's like in Prometheus when there's the little snake monster and the guy puts his face right up to it. Like, why are you doing this?
Also, don't go rappelling down a 2-mile high cliff.
Yes, maybe just take a step out of your pod, look around, and say, all right, bye.
Plant your flag, take a couple pictures. Yeah. Maybe take some scientific measurements, soil samples, atmospheric readings.
Sure.
And then go, this is what it's like there.
Don't
also,
stick your face in green goo.
There's, yeah, and if you do want to touch the green goo, use an instrument, you know. You remember like the thing that Ray Stantz stuck into the river of slime?
There was better science in Ghostbusters than there was in Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
How many years it would take to get to another planet that has a bunch of stuff that we can use to help, you know.
The elements that I liked were not followed through on, so it didn't appeal to me. It won't appeal to fans of the Fantastic Four because they changed so much of the backstory and the tone of it is all wrong, and it won't appeal to general audiences that just want to see a Marvel Avengers type movie.
Or little kids.
Oh, and it definitely won't appeal to little kids. So it ends up being a movie for nobody. I didn't hate it. I'm tempted to say it doesn't deserve a lower Rotten Tomatoes score than fucking Pixels, but at the same time, it's a frustrating movie that you can't recommend to anyone, really.
5-year-olds at least will enjoy Pixels because it's colorful and you can understand what's happening. Yeah, this movie should have had the tone and the writing of like a Guardians of the Galaxy, where you do like Reed Richards doing wacky things.
Or you take a chance and you really commit to the weird science horror movie, which, you know, they didn't do that either. It's one way or the other.
I can't believe they even greenlit that idea.
It's crazy to me that they even tried. I don't think we'll ever get any sort of director's cut or any sort of alternate version, but I would be very curious to see what it was originally supposed to be.
But even entertaining that notion, I could see doing it with something like, I don't know, like
not a big comic book movie?
Lobo, you know.
Not a giant tentpole, well-known.
Yes, the Fantastic Four everyone thinks of is, you know, the Rockman, the Thing, like Stretchy Man, Invisible Girl, and the Human Torch. They're all inherently wacky.
Yeah.
And then they wear the goofy costumes with the 4 on it. And you can't make a dark, gritty David Cronenberg body horror film like that. You could, and maybe you could do it successfully, because stranger things have happened.
Well, that's why I'm wondering what this originally was, because I can see elements where it might have worked, but we'll never know.
Let's drank to Josh Trank. But you're going to need a Josh Tranquilizer during this film.
So, Mike, would you recommend Not So Fantastic Four?
Keep your kids far away. But I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I couldn't hate it. There were, like you said, there were elements in it that were well done. The acting is bland as fuck.
Kate Mara looks bored.
Except for Tim Heidecker's performance, which I thought was brilliant. But everyone else in the movie, blah, blah, especially the man with the deep voice.
Oh yeah, it actually gets deeper as the movie goes along.
So Jay, I don't need to ask you, but would you recommend Fantastic Four?
Fantastic Fraud?
Oh.
No, I can't. I like you, I didn't hate it, but at the same time, it's such a muddled mess that I can't recommend it to anyone really, other than definitely not as a movie, but maybe as just like an artifact, an oddity.
Like the Roger Corman film.
Like the Roger Corman film, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't recommend supporting it in theaters.
They should have just re-released the Roger Corman film.
I would love that if that got an official release.
Redo the visual effects.
Don't change the visual effects. The Human Torch at the end is the best part. When he's flipping around in front of the laser.
I was surprised that some of the effects in there were fairly passable.
Yeah, it had that low budget charm. Which this movie is not low budget and has no charm.
That's right, sir. I understand you want to watch your Night Court tape as soon as possible. All right, we'll be there soon. Thanks, Mr. Plinkett. Goodbye.
Who was that?
That was Mr. Plinkett.
Oh.
Jay, get your snow gear on. We're heading up to Mr. Plinkett's house to fix his VCR again.
Fix his VCR? We're doing that again? Why do I need snow gear?
Because his house is on top of a fucking mountain and it's freezing cold.
Oh, are we still doing that?
You remember his house is on the mountain?
I know. I thought maybe we would just skip past that.